On February 8th, 2005, Andrew Bird released The Mysterious Production of Eggs, an album comprising 14 tracks and running at 54 minutes. By November of 2008, it had sold over 80,000 copies and earned an aggregate score of 85 out of 100 on Metacritic. I just said a lot of numbers, and this album says a lot about numbers. It's an album about the tensions that arise when the logics of numbers pervade our deeply human lives. So when I talk about the logics of numbers, I'm talking about quantification. Our prevailing world order, capitalism, neoliberalism, whatever ism you want to refer to it by, has this tendency to take experiences that are grand and expansive and human and are supposed to be felt, and it'll flatten them into numbers, variables. Education becomes GPA, work becomes a salary, movies become a Rotten Tomato score. And so that's a very literal reading of the word quantification, but when I refer to the logics of numbers, I'm also evoking the consequences and implications of that quantification, as well as the more subtle ways that it seeps into our day-to-day lives. More on that later. Andrew Bird shares these same sentiments with me. On the song Banking on a Myth, Bird takes these anxieties about the flattening of human experiences into variables and personifies them into an enigmatic guy, a banker. Deals in commodities of the abstract sort, buys them in bulk, but then he sells them short. Talent, genius, love, even signs of affection. He floods the market, there's no price protection. Andrew Warwick, writing about mathematical physics and pedagogy and nerd shit, writes that the place of purest knowledge in Western society is nowhere in particular and anywhere at all. And for me, I think that's what allows these abstract experiences of ours to become quantifiable so easily. These ideas are so pure and so malleable. If we surround them with nothing but numbers, they're gonna become numbers. It's like pouring out a glass of fresh water while you're standing in the middle of Antarctica. You shouldn't be surprised when the water freezes into ice. This logic of numbers is the stuff of institutions. The bigger an institution gets, the more it'll have to mitigate for variance among its populace. So society, the largest institution of all, builds itself around unwritten laws. People are normal if they conform to the central tendencies of such laws, while people at the extremes are pathological. But of course, your definition of normal can't just be the same for everyone. You can't just tell every man in the United States that they have to be as much like Ryan Gosling as possible. People generally don't like being told that. So what you have to do instead is create categories. Categories had to be invented into which people could conveniently fall in order to be counted. This manifests most obviously in census data, but it crops up all over, in the workforce, in medicine, and perhaps especially in education.
Get out your measuring cups and we'll play a new game. Come to the front of the class and we'll measure your brain. We'll give you a complex and we'll give it a name.
But, this practice doesn't stop in the classroom. In due course, measuring became the only experimental thing to do. As Bird kindly informs us, it's no different when you're older. You're predisposed. When we spend our entire lives getting measured, we begin to internalize this idea that we exist as measurable things as a truism. This act has consequences for the ways in which we conceive of others and think of our own possibilities and potentialities. And speaking of seeing others as variables instead of human beings, have you tried swapping your blood with formaldehyde? Are you made of calcium or are you carbon-based? After all, you're what happens when two substances collide. My skin is white as parchment and I still have legs and arms. Biocentricity. It's this idea that we human beings are nothing more than the sum of our physiological features and attributes. It goes hand in hand with race science, and it's gross. McKittrick has a word or two to say about biocentricity, but I'll give you more than a word or two. I'll give you like 33. Here, the practice of being human is embedded in a living system that replicates itself, and in this, replicates what it means to be human according to the parameters of the existing social system. Look at it this way. All cells can do is replicate themselves, and when the only thing we ever engage with are things that are caught up in these logics of numbers, if we're seeing ourselves strictly as biological beings, all we can do is replicate those logics into our own brains, into our perception of everything. Creativity becomes an extra-human activity. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution, I am now a being of pure form and function, of accountability and organization. It's awesome.
Yeah, what happens when two substances collide? And by all accounts, you really should have died.
There's a paradox in there, and in order to parse it, I'm going to posit that the two lines refer to two different versions of you. You, as a biological being, are nothing more than the result of two substances colliding upon your conception. But you, the person who is expansive and unmeasurable and even unspeakable, you really should have died. We should have flattened all of that out of you. But nonetheless, here you are, both at once. And now, as a result of that, things are starting to get strange.
Just don't let the human factor fail to be a factor at all.
Ruha Benjamin believes that the facts alone will not save us. She advocates novel fictions that reimagine and rework all that is taken for granted about the current structure of the world are urgently needed. Bird engages in these sorts of radical fictions throughout the entirety of Eggs, but it really shows in two songs, and I'll start with Opposite Day. The premise of this song is perhaps the most straightforward out of any of the songs off the album. Bird wakes up and is disappointed because today was supposed to be the day that molecules decide to change their form and laws of physics lose their sway. He laments how he didn't get revenge on the institutions that have wronged him all his life, how the 1%, those the world set up for, who are really doing quite well, didn't wake up in institutions, be it in prison or in hell. Here, Bird is obviously just trying to upend the standing power imbalances that exist in society, not unlike the fiction story Sultana's Dream, where the societal weight given to gender roles suddenly flips upside down. But here's the thing about doing that, is you're not actually changing the power structures that lead to oppression. You're just reversing who is the one getting systemically oppressed and who is the one benefiting from that oppression. I think, however, that Bird knows this because the whole song feels very tongue-in-cheek and we're not supposed to take the narrator at face value about what he's saying. Ruha Benjamin asked us to reimagine these social structures, not just invert them. And this is where the second song, Tables and Chairs, comes in.
I know we're gonna meet someday in the crumbled financial institutions of this land. There will be tables and chairs, there'll be pony rides and dancing bears, there'll even be a band. 'Cause listen, after the fall, there'll be no more countries, no currencies at all. We're gonna live on our wits, we're gonna throw away survival kits, trade butterfly knives for Adderall. And that's not all. Whoa, there will be snacks, there will. And there will be snacks, there will. There will be snacks.
Richard Dyer, writing about entertainment and utopias, said that entertainment does not contain the utopian world models that your Sir Thomas More might have written about some odd 500 years ago. And if entertainment were to try to depict these utopian worlds, it would fail every time because of the nature of entertainment and representation. Rather, if entertainment does want to evoke a radical new utopia, the best it can do is provide the feeling, the vibe of what the author believes this utopia would be like. And I think that this song, Tables and Chairs, does such an amazing job at that. At the start of the song, before describing this utopian vision, Bird tells us, "Don't you worry about the atmosphere." And while this is a clear nod to climate change, I can't help but also think that the atmosphere he's referring to is also this prevailing world order, these logics of numbers that I won't just shut the fuck up about. It is such a good song, though. There will be snacks. As much as I love talking about pony rides and dancing bears, it's time to go to war. On the song Sauvé, Bird sings about the Don Quixotes and their B-17s. Don Quixote is a fictional character who's this romantic idealist with no sense for real-world repercussions. And so, Bird is saying that in real life, these weapons are created because of dangerous ideals that we leave unquestioned. Ideals that have seeped into the cracks of our normal daily lives. They're all over our societal structure, very much including education, as we see June Barrow Green discuss in a case study concerning mathematics at Cambridge and wartime efforts. So I find it very fitting when, going back to measuring cups, Bird tells you to put your backpack on your shoulder and be the good little soldier, drawing a direct link between these two institutions. And so, it is that Bird, on the song MX Missiles, a very militaristically themed song, he's surprised to find that you aren't really MX missile proof. You are not unaffected by these wartime ideologies. They still seep in to your daily interactions and beliefs. Damn, he says, that really sucks for you. You know what you need? Is a conflagration.
Well, you sure didn't look like you were having any fun. Without heavy metal gaze, they'll have to measure in tons. And when you look up at the sky, all you see are zeros, and all you see are zeros and ones.
So, Master Fade is the only song I haven't touched on yet. I think the song serves as a really good embodiment of what I'm trying to say here. When you look up at the sky, at the atmosphere, at that which surrounds us, all you see are zeros and ones, binaries. 0, 1, self, other, good, evil. The whole world is made up of these binaries. That's kinda his thesis. And with any thesis comes an antithesis. He says, "You took my hand and led me down to watch a Papillon parade, and we let the kittens lick our hair and drink our chalky lemonade." Once again, he's evoking the feeling of a utopia here, but this one is more personal than societal. But between that thesis, that the world is made up of binaries, and the antithesis, you arrive at a synthesis. I want to live in this utopia where these logics of numbers are dismantled, Bird says, but I can't. So I might as well have fun with them while they're here, engage in some radical play. The green grass is 6, the soybeans are 7, the June bugs are 8, the weeds and thistles are 11. Yes, the world is predicated on numbers and variables now, and in so many ways that sucks for us as human beings, but we don't have to fully succumb to it. We can code these numbers how we want to for ourselves. We don't have to play the game exactly how the world expects us to. Bird says, I could have played Mahjong, but it just takes too long. In live music performance, the master fade takes all these channels that all these different instruments are playing through and transforms them into one single channel, one knob that you can use to dampen or strengthen the volume. And if we're looking at this as a metaphor for human experience, then yes, there's a lot that's lost in that aggregation into one single channel. But ultimately, it's your finger resting on the master fade. So toy with it. Make it your own.
I mean, Christ, who knows? But if you think there's something else, well, you're right, there's something else. But if you think I'm gonna tell you, think again. Why should I even think of telling you what there is? Yeah, 'cause silence is knowledge, and knowledge is power. I'm on the explicit orders to dare not speak its name. Listen up, I just work here. Oh, I dare not speak its name. I can't keep talking about it. Whoa, I dare not speak its name.